Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Maureen Doyle-Scarf, and I am the chair for the 2014 annual conference for the Alliance for Continuing Education in the Health Professions. I want to welcome everyone today as I walk through a how-to for submissions of proposals and/or abstracts for the 2014 call. To start, just a reminder that our theme for 2014 is innovation. When you get into the system, which I'm going to show you how to do in just a couple of minutes, you're going to be asked to select sub-themes, a sub-theme that ties back to this overarching theme of innovation, and those include the following: learning and change, technology and action, culture of collaboration, and continuous improvement. Learning and change, just to give you a little bit of feel for what these actually stand for or mean, is very broad. Most all of what we as CME, CE, CPD professionals do, in fact, fit within this notion of learning and change. And it really is about the essence of how education and the idea of leveraging education in terms of helping to improve patient care relative to behavior change of our target audience and other types of systems changes and things that all of you may, in fact, be involved in. Learning and change is a broad-based collective theme or sub-theme, if you will. Technology in action stands for what it sounds like. How are we leveraging technology in ways, not just because it's there, but in ways that actually truly improve the educational experience of our learners? Culture of collaboration is a sub-theme that can speak to just that collaboration of different provider types, different stakeholder types, collaboration on a particular activity, or collaboration in terms of an entire program level strategy. A nice example of collaboration might be how a CME department is working more closely with their quality improvement or quality assurance department in their effort to close gaps in care and improve patient outcomes. And then continuous improvement, again, a broad sub-theme that speaks to this notion of closing gaps in care. Education clearly plays a role in continuous improvement, continuous quality improvement, but oftentimes it goes beyond just an educational strategy as it relates to our efforts in that space. New this year for the call are 3 distinct categories to consider when deciding what type of a proposal or what type of abstract you actually want to submit. Those include a call for innovation and inquiry proposals, which, as noted here, includes new learning formats, and I'll get to that in just a second. The second is a call for abstracts of research in continuing education in the health professions. These are, JSEP is noted there on bullet number 2 for a very specific reason. These are true research abstracts such as you would find published in the journal, our journal. And the third category to consider is a call for medical education and quality improvement collaboration. And these are storyboards, also known as, and you'll see it listed as AKA, posters or poster sessions. But we're taking a page out of the quality improvement arena, and we've decided to call these storyboards. We will be doing an on-site competition for storyboards at the 2014 conference, and more on that will be forthcoming. To get to the submission, you want to click on this link, www.acehpconferencecall.com. That's actually going to take you to the website where you're going to be able to submit your ideas, proposals, and/or abstracts. This is what it looks like. So when you click on that link, or when you click, you put that URL into your browser, this is the first page that comes up. It talks a little bit about, when it says the 39th annual conference, that's the 2014 conference. You're on the right page. This just speaks to basically what we're going through today on this call. Notes the date for our conference, which is January 14th through the 18th next year at the JW Marriott in Orlando, Florida. Note that this time is a little bit earlier than it usually is for the conference, but we are at a great hotel and conference location, which is where we actually have been as an organization for every other year for the last few years. So we're excited about going back to the JW Marriott. So this is your main page, and over here on the right-hand side in this gold box, you'll see those three options that I just noted in terms of your submission. So if you're going to submit a proposal for innovation and inquiry, you would click on this one. If you're going to submit an abstract for a research project that you've been involved in, you would click here. And if you have an idea for a storyboard, again, more details to come, you would click here. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about the first option, call for innovation and inquiry proposals. A couple of things to keep in mind. The online submission process is very easy to use, and frankly, once you're in there, I think it's quite self-explanatory, but I wanted to touch on a few things that are very different for the call this year. And one of them, as I mentioned earlier, is this new learning format. We are, in fact, forcing you to select a format for your session. In years past, a session was a session, and it was either an hour-long session, or it was a breakout session, or it was a 2 or 4 hour intensive. This year, or for 2014, we actually want you to select one of these 4 learning formats that we've listed, and you'll see that when you're on the site. It'll require you to choose one of these. Learning Lab is one option, and you can select, and it'll actually prompt you for this. You can select a 1-hour Learning Lab, 2-hour, or 4 hours. And some of the ideas that we've given you, and this is there's more specific detail on this, by the way, in the documentation that's available on the site. But some of the examples that we're using are inquiry-based learning sessions. These might be small group sessions, a skills building workshop, so a workshop where you're actually teaching someone how to do a skill, and when they walk out the door, they're going to actually have had an opportunity to practice that skill and be able to do it when they get back into their office. Another interesting concept that we're hoping that many of you might consider and play around with is this notion of a reverse or flipped classroom that is starting to appear more and more in the higher education arena. This can be facilitated in a whole number of ways, and if any of you are interested in submitting a proposal or an idea for a reverse or flipped classroom, you will likely get a call from someone on the annual conference committee to talk a little bit about the logistical details that might need to be included. It is, in all likelihood, we will actually be doing some requiring individuals to actually register for those particular sessions in advance so that you as a facilitator or as faculty would know who your audience was, and you would be able to communicate them in advance of the live activity or session in Orlando. Another learning format that you can select is a case study format with discussants. These are many of us who have participated in scientific sessions, attended conferences and congresses, are aware of this type of a session where a case study is in fact presented, and you have individuals who are then participating in terms of the pros and cons of how one might manage that case, and then there can be audience participation and interaction. The key to all of these, by the way, is that interaction, very hands-on, very back and forth between whomever serves as faculty and those individuals in the audience. Another learning format is a patient-led interactive session. Now, this can take all manner of forms, if you will, but the point here is, in fact, that a patient would be participating in some capacity. If you're going to address a particular clinical area and showcase a program or an activity or initiative that you as a provider actually implemented, that you would bring a patient in as part of your faculty. He would either lead a discussion or lead a portion of the discussion to talk a little bit about the patient perspective relative to the impact of education that is designed to truly close gaps in care. And the last learning format is the usual didactic session. Many of the sessions that have taken place at the Alliance Annual Conference in the past were, in fact, didactic. They would fall into this category. We ask individuals to reserve that learning format for those activities and initiatives whose content truly is new information. So if your intent is to close a knowledge gap, then a didactic session, as we all know, would be an appropriate means of actually managing that. When you click on the Innovation and Inquiry Proposals for Educational Sessions, again, back at that the main menu box, this is the first page that will come up. It'll list the title of this particular option, and it'll give you a little bit of information and explain to you this is a 6-step process. I'm not going to go through this because, like I said, it really is pretty self-explanatory once you're on site and you're actually going through this process. But the first step, as I mentioned, is going to be select that sub-theme that you think most appropriately aligns with the idea or proposal that you're submitting. And then you'll just click the next button and continue to click next as you're completing and filling out the submission. The second option I mentioned is the call for abstracts of research and continuing education in the health professions. In this instance, you actually have a few things that you need to keep in mind. You have 2 categories within the research abstract option to choose from. You can either submit an abstract for original research that is relevant to continuing education in the health professions, and this research could be qualitative, quantitative, or mixed methods. The second category is a literature review, which actually may be a systematic review, a realist review, or critical assessment of the research literature. If you click on that option, if you will, back on the main page, this is the first page that will come up. It's actually 2 steps, and as I mentioned, you're going to basically complete the directions as are stated. The folks at JSEP who are actually going to be reviewing these abstracts are requesting those components that are listed here in introduction. That includes the problem statement and purpose, statement of methods, synopsis of results, and a short discussion of the findings, including implications for practice. You have a 350-word limit here, which is actually slightly more than the JSEP requirement of 250 words. They decided to expand that because this is a new process for everyone, and we wanted to make sure that everyone was able to articulate the idea of the research that they actually wanted to submit. The third option that I mentioned is the call for med-ed and quality improvement collaboration storyboards. Unique to this year, again, is the idea that we wanted to take posters, convert them to this notion of a storyboard where you really are, in fact, telling a story. And we've decided to essentially put a theme on the storyboard session for this year. And that theme is this notion of medical education, continuing education, whether that's physician, nursing, pharmacy, PAs, whomever. It runs the gamut of the Alliance membership. But it's those entities partnering and truly collaborating with quality improvement or quality assurance, patient safety, or other arms of their institution or organization. And the notion behind this new approach to posters is that in fact, you can tell the story of this collaboration. What we're seeking are 2 endpoints, if you will. The idea of collaboration, which we know has been very difficult and oftentimes can be challenging for all of the stakeholders involved. But as importantly, what patient problem were you actually able to solve through that collaboration? So when you go online and you actually select storyboards as your option, the system will walk you through and ask specific questions about describing the healthcare problem that you were trying to tackle, describing what the educational strategy was, because clearly that's an important component of these types of collaboration. Describe the patient-level outcomes that were measured and ultimately the results. And then lastly, although this isn't something that we will be asking in your submission, just a note relative to the on-site competition. Those storyboards that are selected by the subject matter experts and the annual conference committee to actually be presented at the annual conference in January of 2014 will participate in an on-site competition and will be evaluated both on the merits and the relative outcomes of the project that's been presented, but also the creativity and whatnot of the storyboard itself that is being presented. A group of leaders within the Alliance will actually spend a couple of days on site going through and evaluating all of those, and we will be holding a competition. So we're very excited about that. If you click on Storyboards, as I mentioned, aka posters, you'll see this first page, and then again it will walk you through, just like the others, what we're looking for in terms of the descriptive. For the storyboards and for the abstracts, for the most part, you're going to be putting free text in that specifically describes the nature of the project or proposal that you're submitting. A couple of things to keep in mind. On this particular page, it says, where it says here, click to view a storyboard example. You can go ahead and click through that, and it will give you an example of a storyboard. Your submission doesn't have to look like that, but it just gives you an idea of what we're seeking or what it is we're talking about in terms of storyboards. And you'll notice that it looks very similar to a poster of old. So in summary, I just wanted to bring a few things to everyone's attention, things that you all need to remember as you go through this process of submission. As I mentioned earlier, the URL to get to the submission site is acehpconferencecall.com. Go to that site, you'll get to the main menu, and then you'll have the opportunity to select each of the different options. You may submit proposals and or abstracts in all three categories, and we encourage you to submit more than one if you have ideas for more than one in any or all of those categories. Carefully read all of the instructions. I mentioned that this is pretty self-explanatory once you get into the system. It was designed quite well in terms of helping us keep things on track. But there are PDFs available to you on that main site in the gold box on the right-hand side. I encourage you to select those, print them off, and read through those before you actually go through the process of submission. A reminder that the deadline for submissions has been extended, and this year is going to be April 15th, 2013. And lastly, if you have any questions about the submission process, technical or otherwise, please contact Bryn Barnett at the telephone number or the email address listed here below. And with that, I want to thank you all for your attention. I look forward to seeing everyone's ideas, proposals, and abstracts that are being submitted for the 2014 conference, and we'll see everyone in Orlando. Thank you.